Before we begin, if you enjoy these videos, please like, share, subscribe, comment, and consider donating. Thank you. There is typically a new video at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every day. Ash and Darius followed behind as Harkin led them to a small alleyway through which no one through was of course passing. Indeed, they would make their way to the man, tail him, and then, as he did every morning, they would follow him as he entered his apartment, a large bricked building, very beautiful in design and very expensive, where they would convince him plainly, to put it in a nice fashion, to commit himself to their business plan, which he would surely do if he savored his own life. They knew his face from a drawing that Harkin had showed them, and they were but meters away from him now. In any case, it would not be difficult to enter the apartments, as they would simply need to tail him, and then once the door was open, to rush him into the apartment, close the door, and with any luck, no one would be any the wiser. And as Harkin walked away, Ash and Darius eyeing one another, that is exactly what they did. "What are you doing?" the man tried to yell before Darius covered his mouth and pushed him inside, whilst Ash closed the door behind them. Fortunately, there was no one in the stairwell, which stood in front of the building just as one entered. "Did anyone see us?" Ash asked, eyeing a window. Darius peered out of it. "It appears not." Ash nodded. "Let's get out of the stairwell. Where's his room at?" Darius whispered something dangerous to the man, Dilum, and then releasing him, Dilum began to speak profusely. I don't know what the two of you want, but I can assure you that you've got the wrong..." Darius cut him off. "Just take us to your apartment, man," he spat. "And don't try shouting or we'll kill you." Ash nodded and smiled in an amused way. "We'll gladly kill you," Ash said. Dilum stared at them and then nodded. "Right then," he said in a heavy accent. It is this way." As they walked the stairwell, a woman passed them by, but Dilum, out of obvious fear of the two men who followed them, said nothing, and the woman seemed to be too preoccupied with wherever she was going to take notice of them. Though Ash did notice that she had glanced at him. Nonetheless, they arrived at Dilum's apartment in a hasty fashion, and probably they had appeared as nothing more than traitors themselves, as they each wore the clothes of one. Anyway, that is what they were there for. Ash closed the door behind them as they entered Dilum's apartment. It was a tidy place with many books, something that Ash was now a bit jealous of, as reading had turned out to be thus far a pleasurable experience, surprisingly. However difficult a task it was, he envied his vast array of books, his collection of them, but disregarded them nonetheless as Darius sat the man down at his desk, which sat in the center of the room and towards the back, and told him, "We're not here to kill you." Dilum was a short and sort of little man. "You're not?" he asked perplexedly. "Then why are you here?" "We're here to strike a deal," Ash told. "Indeed," Darius added, moving in closer to the man and breathing down his neck. Ash chuckled. "I like your books. Is that what you're after, books?" Dilum asked, apparently uncertain of what it was they were doing there. "Money? Money, yes," Ash pointed at him, "but not yours. In fact, we'd like to pay you." "Pay me?" Dilum looked at the two and said. "You have wealth?" "Indeed," Ash continued, and as I said, we would like to share some of it. If we could make a deal. Ash was obviously annoyed with the man. Darius, staring at the man, and Dilum looking back and forth from Ash to Darius, said, "It's an easy deal." Fine," said Dilum, adjusting his shirt collar. "What is it, then?" "You're upset," Ash said, pulling up a small wooden chair which had stood in the corner of the room. "Understandable." He set it down in front of the desk and sat on it. "Let me tell you, then." Darius seemed somewhat impressed by Ash's speech, his proposition, and himself stood next to the man to ensure that he had no tricks to try. Harkin had instructed Ash well, had taught him well, and so he continued this proposition to Delum. "Go on," Delum said, calming down and resuming an attitude of sorts to the business at hand. "It is quite simple. We would like you to supply us with guns, gunpowder, and ammunition." Delum looked at him seriously. "Supply to whom?" "To the guild, of course," Darius said smoothly. "That is what he means." "It surely is," said Ash, attempting to disregard Darius' interruption. "Now, it would be only but a 25% increase of your current supplies. How do you know how much what I supply?" Delum interrupted. "And to whom?" "Do you know to whom?" Ash smiled and shrugged, leaning forward and gesturing with his finger, and repeated, It will only be a 25% increase, so nobody must know." Delum nodded, understanding. "So you would like me to supply you with 25% with the total of a 25% increase in your wares? Guns, gunpowder, bullets." Ash smiled cockily. Delum nodded. "Well, you're not a complete idiot, then." "Do you even know of the guild, old man?" Darius barked at him. "I know of it," said the old man. "I didn't know if it were real or not," he muttered. Ash shrugged. "In any case, we will pay you an equal rate of what you now receive from the royalty, some of the weaponry of which you currently supply." "Double," said Delum plainly. "Pardon?" asked Ash, somewhat surprised by the man. "You'll pay me double," Delum clarified. "We'll pay you an equal rate," Darius told him. "That is a fair rate," Ash said, pointing to Darius. "And 25% is not so much that you cannot stow it away and hide it." "Yet I take all the risk nonetheless," Delum said. "I want double for it." Ash shook his head. Harkin had instructed him that he could not increase the price. "Darius," he said, "convince this man of what we tell him."